This is DD India. You are watching the Defense Dynamics, and I'm Danveer Singh from New Delhi. In the next half an hour or so, we'll talk about realignment of geopolitics in Europe after the recent Trump-Zelensky clash at the Oval Office. So what lies ahead? In these early days of likely geopolitical rejig, how do the India-EU relationship look like at defense and strategic level? We'll analyze that for you. In India, the Air Force Chief has been voicing his concern about the fighter strength for quite some time. His recent remarks, "We need 30 to 40 aircrafts each year," further underscores the crisis. How critical are these concerns? What's the way forward? We'll talk about that in detail. On the other side, India's private defense entity, Bharat Forge, has claimed that they can completely take on the artillery gun needs of the Indian Army, and procurement of K9 Vajra from South Korea was not necessary. Is he overpitching there, or there is some substance to this claim? But we'll dive deep. Before that, take a look at major defense global headlines. A US aircraft carrier, the USS Carl Vinson, arrived in South Korea to display military strength following North Korea's cruise missile tests. Israel announced it is halting the entry of all goods and supplies into the Gaza Strip, warning of additional consequences if Hamas does not accept a US proposal to extend the ceasefire. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain, France and Ukraine have agreed to work upon a ceasefire plan to be presented to United States. The recent confrontation between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office has sent shockwaves across Europe. The geopolitics in Europe is in upheaval. The world on camera saw tensions flare over military aid, Ukraine's strategic role and broader NATO commitment, and all this has raised fundamental questions about Europe's security, architecture and reliability on the US support. This development is reshaping the alliance's defense policies and continent's diplomatic priorities, leading to significant realignment in European politics.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of
Mr.
us.
President,
The Trump-Zelensky clash has exacerbated existing transatlantic tensions. Trump's approach to European security has long been marked by skepticism towards NATO, demands for increased European defense spending, and transactional view of alliances. His dissatisfaction with Ukraine's request for sustained military assistance reflects a broader US reluctance to bear the burden of European security. This dispute has reinforced European concerns about unpredictability of US foreign policy. While the previous administration, including Biden's, reaffirmed Washington's commitment to NATO and Ukraine, Trump's stance has introduced uncertainty. European leaders already vary after his earlier criticisms of NATO and reluctance to support Kyiv are now considering alternative security arrangements. The fallout from the Oval Office incident has accelerated discussions on European strategic autonomy. The European Union has long debated the necessity of reducing its reliance on US military support, but Trump-Zelensky dispute has made this conversation more urgent. France and Germany have taken the lead in advocating for more autonomous European defense strategy. The French President Emmanuel Macron, who previously described NATO as a brain dead, has renewed calls for an independent European security framework. The European Defence Fund and permanent structured cooperation are being reinforced to enhance Europe's defence capabilities. Joint European military exercises, intelligence sharing initiatives, and increased investment in defence industry are gaining momentum. Despite Brexit, United Kingdom has re-emerged as a key security player on the continent. The United Kingdom and France have pledged a joint military reassurance force to support Ukraine, signaling a commitment to counterbalance United States' uncertainty. London is also engaging more closely with Baltic and Nordic nations through defense agreements outside the EU framework. While Trump's wavering stance on Ukraine has weakened US-Ukraine ties, it has paradoxically strengthened European unity on the issue. European leaders, fearing that a divided response could embolden Russia, have redoubled their efforts to support Kyiv. Germany and Poland have taken more prominent roles in military aid, supplying Ukraine with advanced weaponry and logistical support. Scandinavian nations, including Sweden and Finland, have deepened their security cooperation with Ukraine, particularly after their NATO accession. The European Union has committed additional financial aid packages to sustain Ukraine's economy and war effort. The Trump-Zelensky clash, which signaled hesitation from Washington, has emboldened Russian narratives that Western support for Ukraine is weakening. Russia has intensified its hybrid warfare tactics, including cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns to deepen divisions within NATO and the EU. Moscow is fostering close ties with countries skeptical of prolonged support for Ukraine. If United States continue to show hesitancy in supporting Ukraine, Russia may push its advantage further, betting on a divided and a weakened NATO response. The Trump-Zelensky dispute underscores NATO's existential challenge, maintaining cohesion amid shifting US priorities. If Washington continues to retreat from its leadership role in European security, NATO may face an identity crisis. France and Germany are calling for an independent European security pillar within NATO, potentially leading to a two-tier alliance structure. Eastern European nations, particularly Poland and Baltic states, are seeking stronger bilateral defense pacts outside the NATO, anticipating a less reliable US commitment. Turkey's position within NATO remains uncertain as Ankara seeks to balance its Western ties with growing engagement with Russia and China. NATO's credibility as a deterrent force will depend on how effectively it can reassure members of its long-term security commitments despite US unpredictability.
President von der Leyen and the College of Commissioners were in New Delhi from 27th to 28th February to deepen relations with the largest democracy in the world. She made a case for a stronger EU-India ties in an increasingly complex world. She stressed that both the sides' interests coincide more often than not and said that it was time to realign common priorities rather than get stuck trying to find agreement in every single issue.
But we think it's an important part of being in a shared alliance together that the Europeans step up while America focuses on areas of the world that are in great danger.
The global security landscape is undergoing a significant transformation as the United States increasingly distances itself from its traditional role as Europe's primary security guarantor. The shift has prompted European nations to seek alternative strategic partnerships to bolster their defense capabilities and geopolitical influence. Among these emerging partnerships, India has emerged as a crucial player. India and the European Union share common values of democracy, multilateralism, and rule-based international order, making their strategic alignment increasingly relevant. The United States, under successive administrations, has signaled a shift in global security priorities. While NATO remains a cornerstone of European security, Washington's focus has increasingly shifted towards Indo-Pacific, particularly in countering China's rise. This pivot, along with growing reluctance to commit resources to European defense, has created uncertainties within the European Union regarding its long-term security arrangements.
I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did. because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But
US President Donald Trump repeatedly has questioned NATO's relevance and has pressured European nations to increase their defense spendings. This he had said so a number of times during his previous term as well. The Biden administration reaffirmed support for NATO but continued prioritizing Asia-Pacific security. Now in this second Trump presidency, it appears that he wants to accelerate this strategic disengagement. In response, Europe is looking for diversification in its defense partnerships, with India emerging as a natural partner given its military capabilities, strategic location, and shared interest in global stability. Amongst all this, there is a strategic convergence between India and the European Union. There is growing defense and military cooperation as India and the EU have increasingly recognized the need for structured defense partnership. Several factors have driven this engagement. The Indo-Pacific region, where Europe has growing economic and strategic interests, has become a focal point of India-EU cooperation. The EU launched its Indo-Pacific strategy in 2021, emphasizing deeper engagement with India on maritime security, naval interoperability, and freedom of navigation. India has conducted joint naval exercises with France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, showcasing growing strategic synergies. The EU's interest in Indian Ocean security aligns with India's role as a net security provider in the region. The India-EU Trade and Technology Council, launched in year 2022, aims to foster deeper cooperation in defense technology, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. European defense manufacturers, particularly in France, Germany, and Sweden, are increasingly collaborating with India's Atmanirbhar or Self-Reliance India initiative to co-develop and co-produce advanced defense systems. Joint production of fighter jets, submarines, and missile defense systems is under discussion. The threat of terrorism and cyber warfare has driven India and the EU closer in intelligence sharing and counter-terrorism efforts. The Europol and Indian intelligence agencies have strengthened their cooperation to combat global terror networks. Joint effort to counter online radicalization and enhance cyber resilience have become a key focus area. India and the EU share a commitment to rule-based international order and multilateralism. Both partners support United Nations reforms, particularly India's bid for permanent seat in United Nations Security Council. They collaborate in G20, BRICS, and the Indo-Pacific Quad Plus dialogues, shaping global governance policies.
With the United States stepping back from its traditional role as Europe's security guarantor, EU is compelled to seek new strategic partnerships. India, with its growing defense capabilities and strategic vision, is an ideal partner for Europe's evolving security needs. The India-EU defense relationship is still at a very early stage, but the alignment of their strategic interests, particularly in maritime security, defense, technology, and counter-terrorism, positions them as natural allies in a multipolar world. As both partners navigate global uncertainties, their expanding defense and security cooperation will play a crucial role in shaping the future of regional and global stability. With this, we move on to our next story. The Chief of Indian Air Force recently raised serious concerns about the dwindling fighter strength, emphasizing that there is an urgent need of 30 to 40 new aircrafts annually to maintain operational readiness. This statement reflects broader challenges faced by the Indian Air Force in terms of depleting squadron numbers, aging aircraft, and slow procurement processes. Given the evolving geopolitical threat, particularly from China and Pakistan, addressing these concerns is of a very crucial priority. Thus, maintaining India's air superiority is of paramount importance.
The Indian Air Force has long been the backbone of India's national security, ensuring aerial superiority in an increasingly volatile geopolitical environment. However, concerns over its fighter strength have intensified in recent years as the gap between operational requirements and available resources continue to widen. With aging aircraft being phased out, faster than the new ones being inducted, and with the looming threat from both China and Pakistan, India's air power faces a critical challenge. Addressing these issues requires a strategic and a multi-pronged approach to ensure Indian Air Force remains a formidable force capable of safeguarding national interests. Ideally, the Indian Air Force requires 42 fighter squadrons to effectively counter simultaneous threats from China and Pakistan. However, the current operational strength has dwindled to around 31 to 32 squadrons, and this number is expected to decline further as older aircrafts retire. For decades, MiG-21s have served as a backbone of the Indian Air Force, now phased out due to obsolescence and high accident rates. In the coming years, several squadrons of Jaguar Mirage 2000 MiG-29 fighters will also reach the end of their operational life. Unfortunately, the rate at which these aircrafts are being replaced is significantly slower than their phase-out rate, creating dangerous gap in India's aerial defense capabilities. Without urgent intervention, this shortage could severely impact Indian Air Force ability to maintain aerial dominance in potential conflicts. The two-front threat is real, and the rising challenges from Pakistan and China a growing concern. India's security concerns are unique due to its hostile neighbors China and Pakistan, both of whom have been modernizing their air forces at an alarming pace. China has aggressively upgraded its People's Liberation Army Air Force by inducting advanced J-20 stealth fighters and expanding air bases near the line of actual control. Its investment in modern aerial warfare technology, including hypersonic weapons and electronic warfare systems, poses a significant challenge for the Indian Air Force. Pakistan, on the other hand, has been strengthening its air force through Chinese collaboration. The JF-17 fighters co-developed with China are being inducted in large numbers, and Islamabad recently acquired J-10C fighters from Beijing. This aircraft could challenge India's air superiority in future conflicts. Recent military encounters, such as the 2019 Balakot airstrike and 2020 Galwan clashes, have reinforced the urgent need for a well-equipped air force. In an era where modern air power is essential for national security, the Indian Air Force must ensure that it is prepared for all contingencies. While India has made all efforts to modernize its fighter fleet, the progress has been slow and inadequate. The Rafale deal, which bought 36 advanced jets from France, provided a much-needed boost, but it was far from sufficient to meet Indian Air Force's long-term needs. The indigenous Tejas Mark 1A, developed to replace aging aircraft, has faced production delays, limiting its ability to fill the gap by retiring jets. Additionally, the multi-role fighter aircraft, or the MRFA program, which aims to procure more than 114 foreign fighters, remains stuck in bureaucratic delays, delaying critical upgrades. India's ambitious Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft AMCA, designed to be a fifth-generation stealth fighter, is still in development stage and will take years before it is operational. Given the speed at which adversaries like China are modernizing their air forces, these delays could significantly weaken India's strategic position. To address these challenges, India must adopt a comprehensive strategy focused on increasing fighter strength, streamlining defense procurement, and fostering global defense collaboration. India needs to fast-track the procurement of 114 plus MRFA fighter aircraft, which has contenders like F-21s, Rafales, Gripen, and Su-57. The government should streamline the defense procurement process to reduce bureaucratic hurdles and speed up acquisitions. There is also a need to enhance joint production and foreign collaborations for co-development of advanced fighter jets. India needs to boost airborne force multipliers like mid-air refueling aircrafts, airborne early warning and control systems, and electronic warfare units to enhance aerial combat capabilities. And also, expanding UAV and drone capabilities to support fighter operations and conduct high-risk missions is equally essential in modern-day warfare. In a long-term vision, balancing quality and quantity is a must. While fighter numbers are crucial, India must focus on 5th generation stealth fighters to maintain technological superiority. Investment in hypersonic weapons, AI-enabled combat aircrafts, and next-generation avionics will ensure Indian Air Force's long-term dominance in aerial warfare.
The Indian Air Force Chief's concern over fighter strength are not just valid, but critical for national security. With aging aircraft being phased out and new inductions not keeping pace, India risks falling behind aerial capabilities. However, accelerating indigenous production, fast-tracking foreign acquisitions, boosting partnerships, and investing in future technologies, India can ensure IAF remains a formidable force capable of countering emerging threats. The coming years will be decisive in determining whether India can bridge its fighter jet gap and maintain air superiority in an increasingly volatile geopolitical environment. In our next story, we dispassionately analyze the claim of leading defense manufacturer in India to do with self-reliance in artillery system. In a bold assertion of India's self-reliance in defense manufacturing recently, Baba Kalyani, chairman and managing director of Bharat Forge, questioned the rationale behind importing K9 Vajra self-propelled howitzer from South Korea. This stance from the leader of Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited underscores growing confidence of India's private sector to meet Indian Army's artillery needs, thus spotlighting the potential of homegrown solutions over foreign systems like K9 Vajra.
India's push for defense self-reliance under Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative has led to significant strides in indigenous military manufacturing. One of the most ambitious claims in this domain comes from Bharat Forge, a leading private defense entity which has asserted that it can entirely fulfill artillery gun requirements of the Indian Army, making foreign procurements like K9 Vajra howitzer from South Korea unnecessary. This statement raises important questions about India's artillery modernization and capabilities of Bharat Forge and whether its claim is a case of overpitching or a realistic assessment. To evaluate this, we must analyze India's artillery needs, Bharat Forge capabilities and role of foreign procurement in strengthening India's defense preparedness. India's artillery modernization has been a long-drawn process primarily due to delay in indigenous development and procurement roadblocks. Nevertheless, Bharat Forge's artillery capabilities are a game changer. Bharat Forge, part of Kalyani Group, has emerged as a major player in India's private defense industry, developing and supplying advanced artillery systems. Some of the key contributions by this group are ATACS, Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System, co-developed with Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO, and Garuda 105mm lightweight high-mobility artillery for mountain warfare, and also Bharat 52, a locally developed 155mm 52 caliber howitzer comparable to foreign alternatives. Bharat Forge has developed its own mounted gun system MGS, a 155mm 52 caliber howitzer mounted on a high-mobility vehicle. The company claims that it can produce self-propelled artillery that matches or surpasses K9 Vajra in performance. Bharat Forge's artillery systems have attracted global interest, which exports to Armenia and other defense markets. The company's precision engineering expertise, cost effectiveness, and faster production capabilities make it a strong contender to fulfill India's artillery needs. But then question arises that why K9 Vajra was procured. Despite Bharat Forge's claim, the Indian Army opted for South Korea's K9 Vajra howitzers, produced in India by L&T in collaboration with Hanwha Defense. This raises an important question: was this procurement necessary? Well, to understand this, let's check out some facts. Firstly, K9 Vajra is a combat-proven system used by South Korea, Turkey and Estonia. It has been customized for Indian conditions, including operations in Ladakh during the year 2020 India-China standoff. Indian Army needed a self-propelled howitzer quickly, and Bharat Forge's alternatives were still in development and testing stages. L&T successfully delivered 100 K9 Vajra units ahead of schedule, proving the reliability of partnership. K9 Vajra is optimized for desert warfare, making it ideal for western borders with Pakistan. Bharat Forge's mounted gun system, while promising, was not fully ready for deployment when K9 Vajra was finalized. So the question arises that is Bharat Forge's claim a matter of overpitching or it has some substance? Well, while Bharat Forge has made remarkable progress in artillery development, its claim of being able to completely replace foreign artillery import needs need careful evaluation. Supporting Bharat Forge's claim are the indigenous capability. There is no doubt that Bharat Forge has developed advanced indigenous artillery that meets or exceeds global standards. Also, there is a huge export potential. Successful exports indicate confidence in quality of Indian-made artillery. In a self-reliance push, India should prioritize local production to reduce import dependency and boost the defense industry. And also, private sector efficiency has also been showcased. Compared to bureaucratic delays in public sector defense projects, Bharat Forge and similar companies offer faster, cost-effective solutions. At the same time, there are arguments against Bharat Forge's claims as well. Operational testing and certification, unlike K9 Vajra, Bharat Forge self-propelled solution lack extensive battle testing. At the time of K9 Vajra procurement, Bharat Forge's systems were not fully developed or ready to immediate induction. Technological gaps also existed. Despite indigenous advancements, some critical technologies like automated fire control, advanced targeting, and battlefield integrations were still maturing. Diverse need of the Indian Army, which needs a mix of artillery types, that is self-propelled, towed, and mounted gun systems for different terrains. The foreign procurements were the only solution to supplement the domestic production to satisfy various Indian Army's needs. The only way forward, balancing indigenous and foreign systems to optimize its artillery strength while supporting self-reliance.
In all the stories covered in this episode, from strenuous Ukraine-US relations to geopolitical shifting sands in Europe, to Indian Air Force's criticalities, to growing confidence in private defense players in India, the thing that stands out is that self-reliance is key guarantor to security for any country, especially a country like India that exercises strategic neutrality. With this, we come to the end of this episode. See you next week with new stories and their analysis. Thanks for watching, and do post your comment on social media with #DD with Danvi. Goodbye and take care.